Hi, book club members. I'm Jen Bozier.
And I'm Carrie Honey.
And this is Warhammer 40k Book Club, where we read from a crag. This is episode number 29, and our book is The Last Hunt by Robbie MacNiven. We've hosted several White Scars! So this book is about the fourth company of the White Scars as they go to defend one of their recruiting worlds from an invasion of the Nids.
Not just any Nids. The leftover
the
Nids.
Leftovers of the devastation of Baal.
Yeah.
Damn space vampires, clean up your trash. So we posted several questions on our
they
website.
Were a little wounded and dead.
Okay, they still could have taken out the trash. I'm just saying.
Or Robbie G could have. I mean, he came in at the end. He could have chased them all out, but
Focus, woman. We posted several questions on our website, WH40kbookclub.com, and we encourage participation in our discussions via Twitter, YouTube, our site, or Encrypted Box channel. Spoiler warning, if you haven't yet read this book, go ahead and read the book, go to the site, check out the questions, and then come back to this episode as we'll be talking about this book in great detail. And I feel like this book, a lot of the books we read, like I would feel really bad if we inadvertently spoiled it, but this one in particular, I feel as though it would be a disservice to somebody. So with that, let's dive in.
Yeah, you can't discuss this book without spoiling it. It's
really difficult. It really is. So let's dive in. Did you like it?
I don't know yet. I'm kind of back and forth on it. I mean, so I know how you feel about it. I'll let you have the reins here in a second. But so the time travel thing doesn't entirely bother me. And she's twitching for our audio listeners, visibly twitching on camera. It doesn't bother me as much. Because the more I was thinking about it, it's like, well, how else would this have gone when you only have one company? You only have 100 Space Marines handling this. And yes, even though it is a smaller, kind of a piece of their overall pie, how many, not companies, how many chapters of Blood Angel and Blood Angel descendants were there? And all of them died. All the chapters died, but 2?
Right.
So, I mean...
Only the ones wearing plot armor.
Right. The ones that were going to be saved. Yes.
Only the ones that were important, let's be clear.
Well, I mean, come on. Was there really any other Blood Angels chapter in there that you're sad is gone?
Literally not a single one.
Like the Blood Drinkers, This is gross. So we only have one company. I don't know how else it would have gone unless there was not that whole massive gene stealer cult under the city. That's the only, because they even said they were all confused. They've gotten the fleet's blown out of the sky. They've destroyed all the Hive Tyrants, so they have no idea why they're, coming together again. So if it wasn't for that, they would have been just fine. Other than that, they would have needed the entire chapter, or at least half the chapter. Otherwise, I don't see any other way they get out of this alive. Which just, I guess, There's always sending that final order up to the sky, because Shen's just fine up there, just exterminatus.
Right. Dust off, nuke the site from orbit.
Yep.
It's the only way to be sure. Yeah. So Carrie knows this about me because we have read comic books together for a really long time. I've been an avid comic reader since I was a kid. And there are 3 things that I hate and will destroy a series from me. I have stopped reading so many comic series over the years because of 3 things. 1, time travel. 2, alternate dimensions. And 3, alternate versions of people due to either 1 or 2. This book has two of the three things. So, and it's actually nothing against Robbie MacNiven. I just don't like time travel. And it's unfortunate that that's one of my trigger issues. I don't like it. I don't like it as a plot twist. And I think I've always said this, and it's amazing how many times we go back to talking about BioShock Infinite on this podcast. But in my review for BioShock Infinite, when it came out forever ago, I said that if you need to resort to time travel or alternate dimensions to tell your story, full stop, go back and rework it. It's one of those things that I'm not a fan of. I don't like it. And if you're asking, hey, did you like it when Avengers Endgame pulled it out? Not really, no.
We would have.
Yeah, I would have been okay with it had they just chopped off the last 20 minutes of that movie. Yeah, well, actually, I guess last 5 minutes of the movie.
Probably last 5 minutes.
Yeah, if they would have just ended it after Iron Man's funeral, that would have been fine.
Yes, that's really all you need. Just end it right there.
That's really all you need, because then they took all their carefully established rules and broke them over their knee. And to be fair, this book doesn't break any rules per se. I just don't like time travel. It's one of those things that I just don't like, which is a shame, because I actually really enjoy the first 3 quarters of this book, because I really like the White Scars. I think they're really fun, and we're going to talk about them more here in a minute. And I'm kind of a sucker for the Nids. I'm starting to have mixed feelings on the Tyranids, honestly, which we're going to talk more about that here in a minute as well. So I liked it up until the ending.
So I'm with you 100% on your second thing. I don't know if we discussed that here on this podcast, but I know we have when we discussed comics. You bring in alternate dimensions, and I'm out. Right. Which has been very hard for me to be a DC and Marvel comic book reader for a long time. Because, sometimes I have to grin and bear through it. My big beef with time travel is not when it happens exactly in a story. It's when they use it to retcon things that have been going on for years.
Yes.
And that's a comic book thing. And a Saturnine thing. Dan Abnett. So, right. So, those are like my problems. Because, like, again, when I was playing BioShock Infinite, when you get to the alternate dimensions part, like, I nearly dropped my controller and was like, I can't deal with this anymore. And so many of my friends like, oh, no, but the ending is so great. It all comes together. It makes sense. It's perfect. No, it wasn't. And it was one of those that... And I kind of felt that way, with that game, is that they did not know how to wrap it up in the ending. And I think there was so many loose points that they had made that the game had gotten away from themselves, and they got this pressure just to get it out, that it was just too discombobulated for me personally. I know several people just loved it, but it hit on one of my things, the alternate dimensions.
Right. Well, and I think so to your point, I will like this book a lot more in hindsight if, look, he got his characters into impossible, and here's one of my big complaints about time travel, and this is what often gets used, is that he got his characters into a dire situation. They're losing. All hope is lost. But then time travel comes in and it's all good now. So oftentimes time travel is used to diminish the stakes. When you look at Devastation of Baal, the stakes were very, very real. I mean, obviously they were... We talked about this in the Devastation of Baal podcast, that they were obviously just cleaning up all of the successor chapters so that they could go forward, draw a line in the sand and say, okay, this is the Blood Angels going forward. And okay, that's fine. So the stakes were kind of artificially high, but I just don't like when it becomes the stakes are high. Nah, we got time travel. So that gets a little frustrating for me. Having said that, as long as this is like the only book that we see the time travel in, I'll probably be okay with it in hindsight. I really do not want time travel to become a big thing in the Warhammer universe. I know that it happens in a couple other books, or rather I've been told that it happens in a few other books. But as long as it doesn't become like a thing now where like we're just constantly time traveling,
Well, even the Farseers in this said that they could only work with just a few people because the more it takes, the more it corrupts reality. So at least there was
Right.
already those kind of rules there. So it doesn't sound like it sounds like it can only happen like in some dire straits. And for the Eldar was the Drukari. My only
Yes.
issue with the whole thing is if they wanted these guys, because I guess it's just the fucking Eldar, they wanted these guys to come and help them take care of the Drukari. They
Hmm.
decided to wait until the Tyranids were invading them and be like, oh, by the way, I can help you out if.
Right.
And and there was actually no,
Well,
and even if the Stormseer agreed in the beginning, okay, you know what, we could use your help and then we'll help you, but no, the Eldar were very much like, no, you help us first. Let all these people die. You help us first. And like, no, you help
oh
us
yes.
first, because we're the ones who are dying here, and then we will go help you.
Hmm. That part I loved. That I thought was really great. I like that the Eldar. So let's transition and talk into that a little bit about Yeneth as a character and the whole concept of her making a deal and the bargain between them. I like it because it just is that casual arrogance that the Eldar have,
Right.
right? Where no gift is given open handed, right? And even then, like, if you look at what happens, this planet is still not going to make it out unscathed, right?
Right.
She's just basically like, I'm gonna go back 10 hours and make sure that it doesn't you don't get totally hosed, and that's what I'm going to do for you. Which, if you in the long run, the Eldar come out of the top end of that deal because the whole thing was to prevent the Nids from getting into the webway, which, to
Mm-hmm.
be fair, would be pretty terrible. But I did like that they're kind of like, yeah, the Nids are a you problem, and we don't want to deal with that. So help us not have to deal with that.
By saying that their problem
Okay,
was really the Drukari.
right,
And then
right,
using
because
the
the Drukhari
Drukari
were
and then using the Drukari is like, oh, they killed your former master. Like, look, she still has his helm.
mm-hmm. That was kind of a dick move. I liked it though. When she was like, "Don't believe me? Let me show you." And she touched his forehead,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, "Oh," like that was just. You will listen to me. I so I liked that part of it, but ultimately, I guess I loved how much sense it made because I liked that the White Scarves initially were like, "No, we're not working with you." Apparently, they missed the memo that the Eldar helped Robbie G.
Well,
Um,
if you remember, they're not even sure if that's true or not. They're like, well, we heard this rumor.
I loved that, by the way.
Yeah, like we need to verify if it's true.
Hmm. I also love that they're like, "Why did they get a primer?"
Yes. Well,
Or maybe ours is back too. Like,
I personally would think it'd be pretty cool if in the future, down the line, I don't care when, we see Jogaten come back with Jagatai Khan. That would be pretty cool.
okay, so
Because that's how Jagatai disappeared, right? Chasing in the
yes,
webway after the Eldar.
yes. So I actually was pretty stoked about that, and that is the one thing that I will definitely give kudos to Robbie MacNiven for, because if you remember, they wanted to go and hunt for the Khan. That's
Mm-hmm.
basically what all of the White Scars want to do. But with the tear in the veil and with Cadia falling, you kind of things are a little more important than finding your Primarch. But
Mm-hmm.
I liked the idea in some ways. I liked the idea that this group of White Scars gets to have their cake and eat it too. They get to save the planet, and then they get to go off on the great hunt to find the Khan.
Right.
I thought that was actually pretty lovely.
It was kind of a nice reward in the end. Like it seemed like it wasn't going to be a good thing. By the way, you guys were trapped here.
Right.
Sorry. You can't really go back.
Right.
Minor details that we didn't
Right.
mention in our deal.
Should have read the fine print.
Right, the very, very fine print. And it ended
Sure.
up, talk about, making lemonade from lemons. Just, we're
Right.
here. Let's go.
Well, and it doesn't take them long to put that together either.
Right.
When they're just like, oh, like pretty awesome, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was a really good reward, especially for the characters who have suffered, and a lot of these guys. So let's talk about
Poor
the fourth
Shen.
company.
Shen above the planet going, hello, where are you guys?
Is this thing on? Oh, I guess they all died, but we saved the planet. Yay! Small confetti. I really liked Shen, by the way.
Oh yeah,
he was one of my favorite characters. So let's start with, how did you feel about the White Scars in general? This is really the first book that, as a book club, we have read that really delves into the White Scars post-heresy, so in the modern era. This is really the first book that we've read.
This is really, I mean, okay, so there was Apocalypse, but this was really the first White Scars only book I have ever read. Right. I haven't even, maybe I have read a short story in one of my anthologies, but I don't remember it. So it could have been like early on when I first started doing this, and I'm like looking at it as like Black Templars, you know, some other random chapter. What's the what is, I don't know what's going on, but
I'm so confused.
But I mean, it was Apocalypse that made me want to learn more about them, and they didn't disappoint. I really like, I mean, I'm not a big like biker fan, but I like the way that this is used. It's not used in a way that's overpowered.
They gotta go fast.
They do gotta go fast. And I think
I actually love it too.
I texted you this because like every time that Jogoten would be like, we ride, I would immediately think of a wonderful episode of Teen Titans Go 40-40-20%, where Cyborg, when they would go to like the 80s realm, and he'd be like, we ride.
That was exactly what I pictured. And you remember, because what's his face has the cyber talk.
Yes.
It's like
that eagle flying. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. From the, if you have not seen Teen Titans Go 40-40-20, do yourself a favor and go watch it. Depending on how much you love the 80s, it's like mainlining the 80s. But I had this, as soon as you said that, yes, like. And it's really funny because everybody that like you play that song from, well, everybody of Generation X, like if you were born, I would say probably before 1982, when you listen to that song, it just immediately strikes a chord and resonates. But so I had the same vision. I actually had the same like imaginative like cyborg on there, and it kind of works because they're in power armor.
And I kind of like, you know, the fact that how they use their bikes in combat.
Yes.
Which also, God, remind me of Teen Titans Go with Robin, because he had his Motorcycle Monday, where you could only do attacks with the motorcycle.
Right.
You know, but they didn't do it in a way that was overly silly or over the top, or like they're really trying to shove the bike thing in your face. So I thought that was very well done. And they really are fun.
He used them smartly.
Yes.
Right? It wasn't, because I feel as though, like, okay, I think the Space Wolves are a really good example, where the Space Wolves are space Vikings who just happen to have this werewolfy thing going on with them. But I feel as though in the recent years, they've really leaned in to the wolf thing, and they're more space werewolves who happen to have some Viking flavor to them. So a lot of the wolf stuff, in the hands of, like, we've read some really good authors with it, it's good, but some authors kind of lean just a little too much into the wolf stuff. So I was a little worried going into this that it was just going to be bikes everywhere, but it wasn't, and it worked. It felt so good when they would fight on those, and when they would describe them on them, it was just like, I mean, it really did make it feel, because they're space Mongols, it really did make them feel more like these horseback riders than, you know, bunch of dudes on bikes. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, I guess going in, I was kind of worried it was going to be like, if you've ever seen the original Dawn of the Dead, at the end of that movie when the biker gang descends on the mall, I thought it was going to kind of be like that, which starts kind of awesome and then immediately goes lame. It was straight up badass.
Oh, yeah.
And we always get to see that the Space Wolves, and so there's the Space Wolves and the White Scars, and they are very much these laissez-faire, we do what we want, the codex is cute and all, but stay away from us, we have our own thing going on. They are kind of the more barbaric of the loyalist space marines,
Mm-hmm.
right? And God, they really are so very different. So very different.
Yes. And I kind of
These
like that, though.
guys,
I mean,
oh,
like, you know,
yes.
I love my Ultramarines and everything, but there's just something about this group that they feel freeing, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
Yeah,
No, it
just,
no, totally does.
yeah, because they just feel so, you know, I loved it. There's one part in here where Jogatin talks about how the Khan, Jagatai Khan, always talked about how you should always fight with a smile.
Yes.
Because there's nothing
I
more
actually
condescending.
got chills.
Yeah, there's nothing more condescending than to kill someone with a smile on your face or to throw it back in your killer that you're fine with what's going on.
Yes. I actually got chills reading that section because this idea, because I always knew that was one of the Khan's things, but then when he explains, right, to show that you're in no danger,
Mm-hmm.
right, this combat is not concerning to you at all. I loved that idea because it is very Mongolian. Like, if you know the history of the Mongols, these were not nice people. So I loved that idea, but they kind of have this, because you have that, right, where you
Yeah.
have this like this barbaric almost cruelty to them. They're like hunting hawks and they have this smile at your enemies, and yet when he talks about doing the calligraphy, there's almost this kind of warrior poet to them, and how they always like go have these sayings.
Man, what 100%. You know, I was, you know, totally imagining them like another Mongolians, but I was still just imagining them like with their paintbrush practicing calligraphy. Even though their language is not exactly like that, but you know, that's it, like samurai.
I was gonna say they're more like Samgolians, Mongorai. I don't know. Anyways, we're gonna go with Samgorians. They do have this kind of this reverence to battle and this reverence. So, one of my jams is Romance of the Three Kingdoms, the actual book. I've read all of them because I was a really big Tenchu or a Romance of the Three Kingdoms video game fan. Anyways, a lot of the characters in there, they really remind me of that. And one of the characters in here, Feng, I actually pictured him looking like Lubu from there, which, if I have any Dynasty Warriors fans, hooray for niche genres! Welcome. Warhammer niche. But I really did, and I loved that. I felt like this book really felt kind of almost like a White Scars 101 or a White Scars primer, that you really got to see into them.
It literally has a glossary in the front.
Yes.
Which I actually did look back at constantly.
I did as well. Yeah. So one of the things that I really like about the Warhammer books, this is kind of a side thing, but one of the things that I like is when they do the dramatis personae in the beginning.
That's something
of the
I love about the Horus Heresy.
Oh God, I love it. There's something I really like about it, but whoever decided to do this glossary here, I don't know if that was Robbie MacNiven or whom, but
thank you.
Keep doing the thing, please. Would other people please pick that up? Because it was the same thing. A lot of the things I was like, I think I understand what this is, but then I would flip to the glossary and be like, oh, I was right. Excellent. So actually, as I'm looking at this reminds me about another thing that was very interesting I thought about the White Scars. So the White Scars treat librarians very differently than other chapters do. Right? Kind of, again, like the Space Wolves. The Space Wolves do not have psychers, thank you. They have rune priests. and the White Scars have always kind of been like that too. Like, we do not have psychers. We have storm seers, who just happen to do the same thing as a psyker. The whole concept that they can, like, no matter where they are, travel back to the Lightning Tower. That was kind of cool.
Right, yeah. No, I agree. I was just thinking in my head, and I was like, but it was, you know, in the Council of Nicaea, it was Jagatai, who was on Magnus's side.
Yes. He was, because, and they work with this a lot more with Jagatai. That's really becoming a defining piece of him, was that, especially in his Primarch novel, this idea that people just need to know what the warp is, because my Stormseers are badass.
Well, didn't you also say that Jagatai was really big about the Emperor? Like, you need to fucking tell people the truth about everything.
Yes. Very much so. Because again, he's like, my Stormseers are badass. Look at all the cool stuff they can do and how helpful they are, because they know what they're dealing with. So that was his kind of big thing. And so I thought that was so cool. And just the way that they talk about some of the storm, like the way that guy referred to his powers a lot. It's like, oh, it's very cool. It was, again, that warrior poet thing where I was like, oh. So, I don't know, it just made me feel good about it. Do you feel like you better understand the White Scars?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's made me like them even more, to be totally honest.
So they have moved up in my esteem.
Like they were a chapter, I was just like, space, nothing against like Mongolians. It just was like, they're biker dudes. Like, it's obvious they're trying to appeal to, you know, the Asian fans with this, and they're bikers and they're the White Scars. Like, what does that even do? Like, I just didn't care anything about it. And it was really Apocalypse, like, oh, these guys were fun. Yeah.
Well, okay, and so that's one thing that I thought was really cool about this, and I'd be interested on your take. As I was reading this book, I kept thinking of the character from Apocalypse, and I was like, oh yeah, these guys would party together.
Yes.
Of course they would. Like, well, sometimes you read books, and there'll be a character from a chapter, and then you'll go and you'll read a book about that chapter, and you're like, I don't know that this is how I imagine them. Like, this character feels like he might be different from the rest of them or something, and no, those guys would party.
Oh, yeah.
Even though that guy's still Christopher Plummer from Star Trek 6.
I mean, think about the White Scars. I think the White Scars are probably some of the most accepting, the most accepting chapter, Legion. And they accept everybody. Right. They understand, and they accept, and they want people to do the same for them. Just accept this is how we are. You're not going to tell us what to do. We're going to do our own thing. Like you guys were telling me, you know, in the Siege of Terra, that Dorn was telling Jagatai, like, we have to stay here. He's like, hell I do. I got other things I got to go do.
No, I'm leaving. Yeah. No, you need to stay here. Maybe I was unclear. I leave. It was, yeah, no, nobody puts Khan in the corner. It was.
I mean, but he can't go fast on Dorn's walls. I mean,
no, and that's a big thing that I love about the White Scars, is that they know where their strength lies, and I think you really saw that in this book with the bikes, right? Like, we know what our strengths are, we know what aren't our strength, and we play to them. And
they even said that how they weren't going to build like this huge siege, because they're like, that's not how we work. That's not what we do.
Nope, we're not the Imperial Fists. Well, and one of the things that I really loved about walls. This book, I love. Yeah, exactly.
We don't build them.
We don't build them. We just, yeah. One of the things I really loved was the whole concept of this book, that they're defending this planet, which they admit is not very strategic. It's not terribly important to the Imperium, but it is one of their recruiting worlds, and they are honor bound to defend it, even though they knew it was somewhat hopeless. I really did like that concept, that we're honor bound to be here.
And not only that, but that this particular brotherhood has had a bad experience on this planet. You know, just 200 years prior. This
particular brotherhood has had a lot of bad experiences. But yeah, this is not their first rodeo on this planet. Or yeah, I mean, there was something really neat about that doesn't matter. We're here. I did, however, like when all of like the upper echelon, like, oh, you're gonna bring us up to your ships, right? We're gonna save you all together or none at all. So take your pick.
Yeah, gosh, when they were talking about, you know, we have to bring in all the steps people in here, and they're like, well, where are they gonna go? Like, oh, I don't know. under the city with everybody else. Like, but people were right. I mean, the smell alone is like, okay, so you get to live because you bathe more often? Like, what is the deal here? It was just,
Yes. Well, I think that's, we've seen this a lot in books, and I loved that. I laughed out loud at that scene because we've seen this a lot in books where people don't understand why the Space Marines are there.
right.
Right? Or they don't understand, they don't grasp the gravity of the situation. Now, there were a couple of things going on here, which we're going to branch into, but the idea that it's constantly, which for the Space Marines, it has to be so frustrating. When you show up, hey, we're here to save you, these are all the things we got to do, and people start griping at you, and you're like, you really don't understand what's going on here.
Well, and it's something that we saw
that
in the, Watchers of the Throne series.
Yes. Very much
like,
so.
All the Terrans are just like, but my things. It's like, there are demons in the streets.
Right. Exactly. What'll it be, Fletch?
Right.
Always. So let's talk more Tyranids. So the Tyranids, this was Hive Fleet Cicatrix, which had branched off from Ball. Thanks, Rob. What are you going to do, right? They're being huge.
Right.
First off, let's talk about, because in my mind, I categorize the Tyranids and the Gene Stealers a little differently, even though, yes, I know the Gene Stealers' sole purpose is to call down the Tyranids. How did you feel about the Tyranids as an antagonist on the whole?
Well, I don't like the Tyranids. So, and it's mainly because they're so OP. To bring a video game term into this, it's like the more they kill, the more they learn, the stronger they get, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And not only that, but now after reading this book, thanks, Robbie. Thank you. You triggered one of my most irrational fears, and that was not cool. Which I've already yelled at him on Twitter for this. So the scene where the Hive ship eats the space station whole.
Oh, yes.
Being eaten alive, as dumb as that sounds, is probably one of my biggest irrational fears. And just the way they were describing it with the acids coming in and then the bugs. Okay, if anyone's seen the original Mummy, with young, back when Brendan Fraser was young and thin.
That movie has aged flawlessly, by the way.
Oh, good. That actually makes me happy because I really liked that movie.
We showed it to my daughter recently.
But early on, when they showed the scarab beetles going under the skin and eating them from the inside out, I nearly walked out of the theater. I was like, this is going to be the whole movie. I cannot deal with this.
So that scene triggered me, but for a different reason. Because when they talk about the thing devouring them and then the acid coming through, it's probably like digestive acid, right? So all I could think about is, when you puke.
Yes.
The stomach. Like I could smell that scene. And like right now as I'm talking about it, I'm like,
well, it's like, and it's not just enough that we're all either going to be crushed, as we're being swallowed, or we're going to be digested with this horrible acid. I mean, I have to say that the captain of that got the best end of that deal for the instant death. But also, there's those bugs that are just hanging out in the acid, ready to eat you from the inside out. I mean, no.
I could see how that would be a little traumatic if that was one of your irrational fears. Yes, I could see that now.
Yes.
I could just smell that scene. Oh, and so the only thing that saved me was, I don't know if you've seen Gremlins 2.
I have not.
Oh my god.
Only reason
I have a huge soft spot for that movie.
The only reason why I haven't seen it is because back when it was first advertised and everything else, it looked incredibly stupid, so I just kind of stayed away from it. I didn't realize the whole backstory of why it was stupid.
It was amazing. It's an amazing movie. But at the end, they end up, spoiler alert, they end up killing all the gremlins by melting them.
Again?
And yes.
Okay.
But it's very funny because the way that they're all melting down. That was the only thing that saved me in that scene, you guys. I could smell it, and I was really disgusted. But then all of a sudden, I was like, it's like that's eating gremlins, anyways. But these are people, not gremlins. Now it just got dark again. Yeah, the Tyranids, I'm with you on it, though. I used to really like the Tyranids, and I still kind of like them conceptually, because, again, and I know that I've made this comparison. I think I made this comparison when we read that one book.
Devastation of
Fist
Ball?
of the Imperium. Devastation of Ball, but also Fist of the Imperium.
Okay, yeah.
Also had the Nids. I am getting a little tired of the Tyranids. And it's not, again, this is nothing about the authors using them. It's just them as a concept. Because in the old days, I really liked the Tyranids because they reminded me conceptually people of the Borg from Star Trek. Because they were just this, not mindless isn't the right word for the Borg, but they were this, you cannot bargain with these people. Right? You can't bargain with the Tyranids. They are mindless. They have one desire, and that is to devour everything or assimilate everything into them. And then they just move on. That's terrifying. In a world, the Warhammer 40k universe of terrifying things. Space mushrooms that just want to kill everything because it's funny to them, right? Chaos, which, enough said. Weeaboo commies. I mean, there's all these... mind control, people. Mind control. That scares the shit out of me.
And now space locusts.
Right. So you have all these, and the murder bugs were scary, but now the fact that they're just becoming a little OP, they're becoming to the point where I'm like, okay, you're going to need a literal Deus Ex Machina to deal with these things. Because at some point, I think I made the same argument in Devastation of Ball and in Fist of the Imperium, at some point, these things are going to eat so much, they're going to be impossible to deal with. You're already starting to see that, right? Where they're like, oh, well, this doesn't work on them anymore. And like when the one guy, I can't think of the name of it wasn't the Lictor, but the guy who could make himself invisible.
Oh, yeah.
It was a Lictor.
It was a Lictor.
I was like, really? And then like a bunch of the other things, just all these little abilities that they have, these things, they're becoming to the point where it's so OP, you're going to need to have something like a time travel mechanic or some just massive Deus Ex Machina to come in and save everybody from it.
Which is interesting because I actually went back and grabbed Devastation of Ball when it mentioned the Lictor in that. Because I was like, I thought the Lictor was like this little bitty wormy thing that just kind of dove into the ground and did its own thing. And I was right in Devastation of Ball. And now it's some giant murder thing. So I don't know.
Yes. And I don't know what's going on there. And I don't know if it happens to do with, so if you do a Google image search for them, like sometimes different models come back from them. So I don't know if they've like done, because I had a similar concept where he was describing what they looked like, and I was like, huh. And I looked it up, and oh, that is what they look like. Okay. Oh, but wait, they looked slightly different before. I don't know. It's entirely possible that I was misunderstanding. But yeah, they're just I'm getting to the point where I used to really like them, and now I'm kind of like, oh, the Nids.
I mean, it's kind of been this way with me. Like, I really liked him in the Uriel Adventurous Chronicles. I thought that was very, very well done.
Yes.
And again, they didn't have just one company. They had, like, a whole other chapter there as well.
Yep.
And the Death Watch. Just saying.
Right. Right.
But now it's just like, these fucking guys again.
Yes, exactly. You're starting to get to the point where they're not really that, and I feel as though, and I get it, I kind of get it, because something's going on with the Tyranids. There's a reason that they're obviously something's going on.
And I'm wondering if Cadia has something to do with it.
Well, the fact that they've become a little bit more prevalent since the fall of Cadia. Now, I don't know if it's because the authors as a collective got together and were like, the Tyranids, we really could be doing a lot more with them. Or if Black Library or Games Workshop has said we really need to start putting these guys forward as being more prevalent. But there's a market uptick in them. And I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Because the orcs just aren't sexy anymore.
Okay, the orcs are always sexy because they're soccer hooligans.
The
soccer hooligan fungus.
It's like the orcs are fucking terrifying.
Oh my god, yes. In Blood of Ajax, another Robbie MacNiven book.
Right.
That is the biggest disconnect I've ever had reading a book. Because they're horrifying and hilarious.
Well, it's almost kind of like, I'm going to talk about this game again. Space Marine. You know, the first half of the game is against the orcs, and they were terrifying. When I got surrounded by them and I didn't have enough to, you know, invoke my rage and rebuild my health, I was screwed. But when you heard them in the corridors, you know, in their little Gackney accents, it was hilarious. Like, I was trying to figure out, I was like, I'm supposed to be scared of these guys, or do I find them funny? But yeah.
And I think we even said in Blood of Ajax, like, during some of those orc chapters, you almost find yourself rooting for the orcs.
They were
like, oh yeah, this is so awesome. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait. Like, I have a huge cognitive disconnect with the orcs. And they're just awesome. And unfortunately, I know that we can't always use the orcs.
Right.
But I would rather the orcs than the Nids. I did like, though, I will say, the one thing that I liked about the Nids in this was I liked that there was fallout from Ball. That they didn't just fuck off into the ether.
Yes.
Okay, no. These things have to eat to live, so great, Ball, you're saved. Now it's just somebody else's problem.
Right. No, I did kind of like that it was this nice, like, right after Ball, because I knew they didn't get everybody. So I was like, well, what is that other little part? Where are they going to go? Just, nope, some other planet's problem.
Exactly.
We've done our part.
Not the Blood Angels' problem. So then let's talk a little bit about the Gene Stealers on here, because you've got a patriarch. That's really funny to say. The dude in the catacombs.
The big worm thing?
Yes. People calling the Tyranids, as it were.
Right. So I know what the Gene Stealers are. I find them weird. I know how they operate and how they work. I did not understand the patriarch.
It was a little different than the ones we've seen previously, because we saw one in Belisarius Call, the Great Work. We saw one in, or like the head guy. This guy was different, because we also saw them in, we literally just talked about it, Fist of the Imperium.
Right.
This guy was a little different.
Yeah, because it was just like this.
I think my
giant worm thing, right? I mean, I know there was the Moloch, which was also a giant worm thing, but then this thing was like a giant worm thing, because they talked about how it could swallow, you know, a ship hole or whatever. So I was just, it didn't make any sense to me.
If you've never seen a Moloch figure, they're super cool.
No thanks. It just really cool. Kind of made me think of. I just lost my train of thought. That's fun. This is where I am in the quarantine, people. I lose my train of thought often.
Fair.
And I stare off into space.
Seriously.
So, but
I felt that in my soul.
So like I was just really confused. I was like, I didn't think that's what a patriarch was this gigantic worm thing that they're all worshiping down there. It was just weird. And so, the Gene Stealers, to me, they feel like something that no author 100% agrees on what they are, what they look like, and how they operate. Because, like, even in video games, I've played 2 different video games with 2 different sets of Gene Stealers, and they were completely different from anything else. You know, from each other and from anything else I've read. So I don't know if the Gene Stealers, they just are able, like, they don't really look like any one thing because they're Gene Stealers, or if it's just something that the authors can use to play with. It just kind of goes back to like something I just don't like about the Nids, and I'd probably like the Tyranids better if they just weren't the whole OP thing. You want to bring in space locusts, Fine, I get that. That would be terrifying. But then to have them learn the whole time, that's not fun. You know,
Right. Well, and some of the stuff I might be okay with, but some of it, if you chase it down to its logical conclusion,
right.
and I think my only complaint there, and this was probably my biggest complaint with the book, was that because we saw that the planetary governor in that intro scene, I think I would have enjoyed that part of the plot a little better had we not known that something was off with him. Mm-hmm. Had he just kind of been like, because honestly, when you go back and you look at his character and a lot of their interactions, he could have just been in shell shock, right? Like when they talk about how he's just a little off. Now it's the Tyrannid, so you're probably just going to go ahead and assume that, you know, that's what's going on here. But I think I would have liked not knowing that a little better, because it got to a certain point where I was like, he is clearly, just look at the guy. When they were like, we're going to put him into the catacombs, I was like, please don't. Like, again, it was the red letter media. Palpatine's behind it. Just the whole time. Like, don't do the thing. Anyways, that could have just been me. But, so, I don't even know, where does everybody go from here?
Well, the planet seems to be like somewhat okay. You know, most of the steppes people, the tribes that lived, you know, were being escorted out.
Right.
By the uppity people who didn't want to let them in the first place. They're actually being escorted because it's still peak furnace season to go where they would normally migrate. And then, you know, they're rebuilding and whatever.
Right.
Eldar I do not care about, although I don't care about them, and yet I'm curious how this is all fitting together with them, because I know we just read Fabius Bile, and that does take place in the past, but, you know, again, we got a lot of Eldar going on. We have the Eldar that was part of the 2 Eldar, not just, and everyone just thinks about, you know, the big titty Eldar GF, but there was another one who was actually the main player in bringing back Robbie Bobby. Thanks, Jen, for that meme. It's probably my favorite.
You're
Robbie Bobby.
So welcome. Robbie Bobby is my new favorite.
Yes. Bringing back Robbie Bobby. And of course, like I said, Eldar with Fabius Bile, and then we have the Eldar here. So it's like, what is going on with them? Like, how is this? This is all coming to a head somehow, and they've got to be a part of this psychic awakening. Why? Because they're Eldar.
Yes. Because they're Eldar, and I agree with you 100%. They are definitely becoming bigger players. They are definitely, with the Eldar, and I think this book especially, they remind me of a chess game. Except they're the ones moving the pieces around.
Well, that's kind of how it felt with Fabius Bile too. You know, that they were trying to do the chess pieces, but nobody moves Fabius's piece, because he's just going to pull something out of his ass always.
Right. Well, nobody knew he had a treason in his pocket. So they feel like they're moving more, and obviously they have been since the Horus Heresy. We've kind of established that, right, with the whole Cabal thing. But they remind me every time I look at them, and with all this stuff, like, oh, we can prevent this and we can do this, I just hear Voss in my head. Have I ever told you the definition of insanity? Insanity is trying the same thing over and over again, thinking shit's gonna change. Like, they remind me of the Grecian hero or tragic hero who keeps trying to avoid their fate, right? What's that? It's actually phrased beautifully in, again, the highbrow classic Kung Fu Panda, when Master Oogway says, like, one often meets their fate on the road to avoid it. Feel like the Eldar are those people. They're constantly like, no, it's cool, we're just going to move these chess pieces here, and that didn't go the way we expected. Or maybe it is. Maybe this is all going to be one giant Eldari Xanatos gambit.
Or maybe that's why the Emperor is not waking up. He's just like, this is fun. I'm just going to watch you guys fuck up this game.
Right. He's just like, I'm just gonna wait. Y'all are gonna need me eventually.
Right.
And it's interesting to me that this is yet another chapter now. And granted, they kind of got forced into it, and nobody else from the White Scars is gonna know that they did the thing. But can you imagine that conversation if they do run into the con? How did you guys get here? Funny story.
Well, I mean, so Queeson was still contacting,
That's true.
back at the main planet, so they know where he was, and he even talked to them, like, you still need to be there to help him grow, basically. So,
that's true.
So they know. They just don't know what's happened to them.
This is another chapter that's gotten buddy-buddy with the Eldar.
Yeah, well, sort of.
Actually, the Dark Angels have gotten buddy-buddy with the Tau. I mean, shit's kind of gone crazy now. Just to defeat the Fallen, I'm pointing directly to the Phil
they
Kelly
got buddy-buddy with the Tau to kill the Knights of Absolution.
Yeah.
Although I forget why they wanted to kill the Knights of Absolution. Because of the Fallen, maybe?
Because the Fallen was there.
That's right. So,
and then
the Tau couldn't even do that right.
Look, sometimes you gotta kill your own successor chapters to hide your deep dark secret. I'm just saying. I'm still not over that book, by the way.
What?
I'm still not over that book. They killed my man, who was a bad Dark Angel.
He was a very, to quote A Song of Ice and Fire, he did not play the game well.
He did not play the game well at all. The game of secrets was over his head, so he was a bad one. But you know what? I'm not over it. Still. Yeah. But this is another chapter. I mean, I did like that they had that we do not treat with the Xenos.
Yeah.
And we're in trouble.
Well, I mean, I think it was one of those was like, well, we have a choice here. We can either not work with them and continue on and continue with our failure, or we can fail and try to get vengeance, or we can get vengeance and possibly succeed. So, I mean, oh my gosh, what was that one chapter? Because one thing I loved was all these quotes. Here it is. I actually turned right to it. It is never about trying to convince the Monkey to trust us, for they never will. It is about showing them that they have no choice in the matter. To which when I read that, I was like, man, that's so elven.
Okay, but can we just say for 1 second that if they were to call me a monkey to my face, you're not clever.
Oh,
although
I never said it was clever.
But I would be very insulted. I'd be like, you know what? No. Find another slur for me. Please. Monkey.
And they say it like to their faces too. It's like you could at least just say human when you're asking them a favor.
Well, I like that they call humans the monkey, and the Tau call them the Gwilla. Monkey and gorilla.
Oh, I didn't even put that together.
Nice.
Yeah.
So nice. Don't come down to my face, motherfucker. Even though I don't have a choice. But yes, I read that quote too, and I was like, classic Eldar. I actually so that's another thing that I like, and a couple of the authors do that when they'll have those like little quotes from people before the chapters, and that's one of those little flavor things that just makes my heart happy. Every time I read them, even if I don't agree with it, or even if I don't particularly like the quote, I like that it's there. I'm always like, oh, it adds this nice, I don't know. It adds this just nice flavor to it.
Well, I even liked the head of the Drukhari, Scalorix. Some of her comments on things were very interesting.
Yes.
She'd known.
Talk about her real quick.
She'd known Yenneith and her ghost constructs would return, seeking to dislodge her either by force or misplaced lies about the Devourer. I found that fascinating.
Be a little
another
curious.
thing she said.
Well, but you know what? I think that goes back to what I was saying, that they keep trying to avoid their fate and manipulate their fate, And sometimes I wonder, and her comment actually made me wonder, like, is this really your destiny? Is this really, like, do you know for 100%, like, can you tell me for certain that the devourer is going to get into the webway? Or is this just what you're, like, saying? Like, is it like a Conrad Kurz thing where you've seen a couple of visions and this vision scares you the most, so that's the one that's true?
Or that's the one you're going to do your best to avoid.
Right, to avoid.
Right, here was the other quote. Of course, a craft world like Ayanden, which tortured its own dead and forced them to serve its whims, would trick the brute Monkey into aiding them. Which is just kind of a nice way of saying both sides really suck.
Yes, and I actually highlighted that quote as well for the same reason, because, yeah, like, but I think it goes back to one of my all-time favorite memes, which was the quote from Black Panther, where someone's like, well, who are the good guys and who are the bad guys in Warhammer 40k? We don't do that here. Yeah, nobody, you cannot point to one faction and be like, no, these are the good guys. You can point to factions and be like, it's like the Imperium. These are the guys who won't skin you alive and eat your face.
These are the slightly better.
Your dead body.
The slightly better.
Right. They'll just boil down your dead body and turn you into corpse starch. Yeah, or kill you to hide a secret. Either way.
Turn you into a servitor,
Right. These are the better guys, I guess. I don't know. Like, it's really hard to say that. And especially with the Eldari, and you have this ancient ass race, right? Like, these people have some crazy shit that they're doing. So the idea that obviously the Jakari are a little worse, but neither of them are like, they're not, oh shoot, what is her name? I was trying to think of the elves from, the forest elves from Lord of the Rings, and I can't think of them at all right now. They're not them, though. This is not your, we're just peaceful.
Right. No, they're not the high elves that you come across in high fantasy and things like that.
They're just a little nicer than their cousins. And they woke up Robbie Bobby.
Which has got to be for something they need some later in time. So it's just a matter of when.
Let me ask you this. Does this book end with a voicemail to Robbie G?
I don't think so. Because...
I don't think so either.
Because nobody's really around.
Thanks, Rob.
Or, I mean, except for, like, them saying, because if the Lightning Tower comes and checks on the planet and be like, oh my god, everybody's dead, but the planet survived, well, and all the Tyranids are dead, well, we can maybe call Robbie Bobby and be like, hey, the rest of that
we cleaned up your mess.
Yeah, it's gone.
Right. But that seems more like a status check-in.
Right. Not really a voicemail of, so...
Hey, Rob. Yeah, no. This one did not. So we can mark this in the not a voicemail category. So, because, as probably you've noticed, this book was published in 2017, we're just continuing along our catching up on 2017 because of the quarantine and the fact that there's no new books. We're next going to branch into more Inquisition Cloak and Dagger stuff with John French's Resurrection. Ooh, you have the hardcover?
I do have the hardcover. Nice. Pretty.
It's shiny.
All shiny. Yep. My first time reading something by John French. As I've read one short story by him, but this may be like my first book by him.
I think I read Solar War, and I've read a few of his short stories as well. Actually, so as a slight teaser preview, one of the things we've discussed this summer is reading the Ahriman Omnibus by him. So this might be the John French show starring John French fans for a little while. Hopefully they'll start publishing new books, so we might have to put Ahriman off for a bit so that we can get our new book fix. Because I do kind of feel like a junkie where I'm like, I need new books.
Well, it's because we always had planned to do Ahriman over the summer. Mm-hmm. But we also thought we're going to have a lot more new books coming out. So
yep. So,
but
I'm really excited. Inquisition.
I'm not entirely complaining because it's been nice to go through some of my backlog here for this stuff.
Is.
But I am ready to see what Robbie, Bobby, and friends are doing next in the world.
Very much so. And I'm actually really excited to read this guy, though, because I feel as though, I have a really good handle on how Dan Amnett treats the Inquisition. We have a really good handle on how Chris Raitt treats the Inquisition. We'll see how John French does. And I'm always a sucker for a group of badasses.
And they do look like it.
They do.
I mean, looks like you got
I'm really excited for this book.
So it looks like you got a space pirate, a space samurai, and I don't know what to call the bald guy with a giant hammer.
Also, these books came recommended to us. Was it by our random Imperial citizen? Or
I believe it was our... No, it was our random Imperial citizen, because he recommended that we get into this eventually.
Yep.
So,
and they just came out with a short story collection. It's eventually!
Yeah.
We get there. Slowly but surely. You want to take us out, Carrie?
Yes, I sure will. So you have listened to the Warhammer 40k Book Club episode regarding The Last Hunt by Robbie MacNiven. Be sure to join us for our next book, Resurrection by John French. So we are an unofficial book club and not affiliated with the Black Library or any of its affiliates. You can find both the vidcast and podcast on our website, WH40kbookclub.com. If you like this episode, please like, subscribe, review, and all those good things to the vidcast on YouTube, or the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Don't forget, we also have a Patreon where we offer 2 different tiers of content for your viewing and listening pleasure. You can learn more about that at patreon.com/WH40kbookclub. Our site also has articles about our adventures in reading other Warhammer 40k books and short stories outside of the book club books. So please stay a while and read from a crag. Good night, everybody.
Good night.